Hi, everyone. It's Pastor Dan with uplifting thoughts for today. It's Friday and Sunday's a comin'. That's from a sermon by a pastor in San Diego. It wasn't a very long sermon, only about 15 sentences, really. Music to some people's ears. I can hear them now. That's what I'm talking about. Every sermon should be short and sweet. Dr. Lockridge delivered his sermon with a powerful and thunderous ending that left goosebumps on my skin. He said, "No matter how dark and hopeless things seem, hold on. There's a Sunday coming, and there's hope in that resurrection." So often our focus is on what is temporary, what is seen. And God calls us to focus on what is eternal or what is unseen. What is temporary is a shadow. What is eternal is the real deal. But so often we miss it. We are to live by faith, to focus our lives not on the temporary things that we see, like beauty or youthfulness, performance or profit. Instead, God calls us to focus on what God has done for us through Christ, to focus on the resurrection. It's what Sunday is all about. Listen to the Apostle Paul talking about the resurrection in 2 Corinthians 5, verses 18 through 21. He says, "All this is from God. Through Christ, God made peace between himself and us, and God gave us the work of bringing people into peace with him." I mean that God was in Christ making peace between the world and himself. Paul says, in Christ, God did not hold people guilty for their sins, and he gave us this message of peace to tell people. So we've been sent to speak for Christ. It's like God is calling to people through us. We speak for Christ when we beg you to be at peace with God. And then Paul tells us in verse 21, Christ had no sin, but God made him become sin so that in Christ we could be right with God. This is our statement of faith. It's about an unseen world. It's a message that is eternal, God's truth for the world. It's the resurrection that we receive by faith. It's Friday, but Sunday's coming. Paul goes on to defend the motivation of his ministry in saying that the love of Christ urges us on. Christ's love is shown most clearly in his death on our behalf. For he died for all so that those who live might live no longer for themselves, but for him who died and was raised for them. Verse 15. These are important words. Christ's death and resurrection has changed everything. So that from now on, he says, regard no one from a human point of view. Verse 16. Paul tells us that's how he regarded Christ, a human point of view. But everything changed when Paul met Jesus in the flesh on his road to Damascus. Paul's human point of view focused on the followers of Jesus, who he thought were following a false Messiah, and he'd throw them into prison or kill them. But all of that changed when he met the risen Christ. So Paul learned in a dramatic way how completely wrong human judgment can be. In what seemed to be foolishness, God's Messiah suffering a humiliating death, God was at work to reconcile the world to himself and to make all things new. So just as Paul's view of Christ was dramatically transformed, so his view of all people was dramatically transformed by the love of Christ. No matter how dark and hopeless things seem, hold on. There's a Sunday coming. There's hope in the resurrection. Remember the words of 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 18. All this is from God. Through Christ, God made peace between himself and us. God gave us the work of bringing people into peace with him. I hope 2 Corinthians chapter 5 becomes one of your favorite passages in the Bible. Hey, it's Friday and Sunday's coming. Spread peace